Hey everybody, welcome to the C23 Labs channel where we dive deep on everything involving learning tattooing and becoming better tattoo artists. I'm your host, Oscar Carmo, and today we're looking into one of my live stream seminars breaking down exactly how tattoo artists create their own styles by actually borrowing styles from other forms of art and how you can do that too. Recently in the community, we've had a lot of questions about how to develop your own style as a tattoo artist. I think it's a topic that a lot of tattoo artists honestly overthink because it's such a big deal and we're tying, our art to our personal identity so much. So it's only natural that we sort of, overthink it. And it's natural that it's a big deal for us because I think when we make art, we really put ourselves out there and we're vulnerable. But I also think it is actually easier than you think, or it can be easier than you think. All right, so I prepared a little presentation for you guys. I'm going to be speaking my thoughts here mainly, so not very structured, but I'm hoping to at least put some thoughts in your minds and get this conversation started. We'll be talking more about this, but at least now we can get it started. All right, let's go. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. All right, so developing your own style as a tattoo artist. Introduction here. Is developing your own style really that important for a tattoo artist? The reason I ask this is because we are service providers, right? We work for our clients in the end of the day. So in that way, we're kind of like, I hate to say it, but like hairdressers. We sort of dance between being artists, but also service providers. So the question is really, do we work for our clients or do we work for ourselves? Meaning, do we tattoo to make ourselves happy? And I think both are true. I know I tattoo because I love it. And I mean, I know nothing more exciting than making a tattoo that I'm really happy with. And, it's an amazing thing when the client is also happy with it. But after many years of tattooing and many ups and downs, I've realized that the thing that keeps me coming back into tattooing and the thing that makes me fall in love with tattooing over and over again, even in the bad periods, is not to make myself happy from the images that I tattoo, but to make myself happy from helping other people and making other people happy. So in a way, on a spiritual level, I think that's the most rewarding part of being a tattooer. And I realized back in the day that when I was just pursuing my own interests in tattooing, like, no, I want to tattoo this, I want to do this style, I was also the least happy. And every time I found back to happiness in tattooing, it was because I found it so rewarding to just be of service to other people. And I got really happy just, making my client happy and seeing how happy they were. I'm not saying that's right for everyone, but I'm just trying to make a point about we are in a dance between being artists for ourselves and for our own sort of, benefit and for our clients' benefit. So it's important as a tattooer to sort of remember that, yes, we can have our own styles, and I think we should. I think the tattoo industry is going to be, and it is, a very interesting place because we have so many different styles. So I definitely think we should try to sort of find our own identity, but also always remember that we're tattooing for our clients. And I'm pretty sure that everyone will agree with me that the most giving thing in life is actually to be of service to others. And I don't post everything I do. I don't do any like color work these days because I just kind of forgot how to do it. But I do a lot of work that I know that I'm not going to put in my portfolio, but that makes my clients happy. And that's fine. But today we are going to talk about how to develop your own style. And there's a lot to do there. So point number 2, is it really necessary to have your own style as a tattooer, given what we just talked about? I really don't think so. Because if we look at the history of tattooing all the way back to, actually tattooing goes back very, very far in time. But in recent history, like if we go back to the sailors in the early 1900s, those tattoo artists, they would create flash and you would go and pick a design off of the wall and the tattooer would do the same design many times. And that tattooer wouldn't always create that flash themselves. They would actually buy those flashes from other tattoo artists. And sometimes there were even tattooers who didn't create flash. They just tattooed other people's flash and they made a living off of doing that. And that's just fine. So that's sort of where we come from, tattoo artists. It's only in the last 30, 40 years where tattoo artists started becoming more like artists and having their own identities, which is so cool. I mean, that's why we're all here today, I guess. But it's also important to understand the history of where we come from. And so no, I don't think it's really necessary to have your own style. I think it's perfectly fine to be a tattooer who just works for the client and that can have multiple skills. I can do color, I can do realism. I mean, maybe you could argue that you won't get super good at one thing because you're doing so many things, but you're perfectly fine as a tattooer to not have your own style. And in fact, I don't think when you start tattooing, if you're early, I don't think you should worry too much about your own style just yet. I think it's good to separate style and technique in your work. Technique being the ability to do a nice line or pack nice color or do a beautiful shading, right? That's very important to have. And it's only when you've learned the rules of tattooing that you can start to break them. You know, the old cliche saying like, you must know the rules first before you can break them. And so I guess I'm saying this because a lot of newer tattoo artists, they spend a lot of time on social media. I do as well. I think we all do. And I think it can be very stressful to see that, oh, his style is so great and he's doing so good and I don't have my own style. And, even I feel like this sometimes, to be quite honest with you. I can go on to social media and just feel like, oh my God, man, people are so good. And I think back then too, that actually the default state of being a tattooer is also just fine. Just making my clients happy, making a great tattoo maybe it's different styles every time. It's not so bad. Anyone who had a normal job before being a tattooer will know what I'm talking about, that, even the worst day in the studio is probably still one of the better days in life for many people. So I think that's important. But enough on this topic now. We are going to talk about how to create your own style and kind of getting to know who you are as an artist and slowly growing a style. So what is a tattoo style? I know this seems like a little bit of a weird question. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I think as tattoo artists, we tend to look at only tattoos and we see a lot of different styles. And I think it's easy to forget that these styles of tattooing, they come from somewhere. And I think they come from other art a lot of the times. A lot of tattoo artists, they are really just transferring an art style that already exists in a different type of art and sort of translates it into the medium of tattooing. And I'm going to show you exactly how that looks in a second here. And so that's kind of the beauty of tattooing being its own medium, is that you can take a style from a different art form and kind of translate it into tattooing. So you can take something from another art form and translate it into art. That actually makes it really fun and a lot easier to think about coming up with a style, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to think, oh, I have to create something from nothing. I think it's more about borrowing a style or a vibe from a different art form and translating it into tattoos. And you can create something that feels new. We've never seen this as a tattoo, if that makes sense. Well, what do you guys think about what I just said? That, well, both that it's not really necessary to work as a tattooer and live a life and make a living as a tattooer without a style, even though that I'm willing to bet that all of you want to develop your own style and I'm going to help you. But is it really necessary? Let's see. Jajan Amosko. I used to work at a walk-in shop before, and I pretty much do every style out there, even the ones I don't even know how to do. Yeah, same here. And I thought that was actually a great school for me because I got to navigate and you learn a lot from doing that. You learn tattooing, like using tattoo machines, and you learn what needles really do and how to create certain effects. I think that's great. That'll only make it easier for you later to really take everything that you've learned and turn it into a style. I think tattoo artists that start early and go straight into a style, they can miss out on a lot of that. And actually they ultimately miss out on finding their own style even deeper. And you have to really learn to walk before you can run, sort of. Elvin is saying, I think being in balance between a service person and offering my own ideas is a perfect place to be. That's so true, Elvin. Jajan, that's an interesting one. You say that you find that your clients, when you worked in a shop, they didn't really remember that you did it. That's an interesting one, because when you work in a walk-in shop, it's true. The clients, they come to the shop as if it's like a hairdressing salon, like they go to a hairdresser and you don't really choose who cuts your hair, or you just get one picked for you. I get that. Let's see. Ali is saying, early on, developing my style was such an important idea, or so I thought. But for me, at least, I realized that I was doing such different work depending on all my clients' concepts. And it was easier to come up with better designs when I didn't try and force a style that I didn't even have yet. Wow. There's things I take into every tattoo that could be the start of a style. Yeah, that's developing organically. Wow. I think Ali is touching on a very, very interesting idea here. Without getting into it too deep, I think Henri Matisse, the famous artist, if you guys know, I'm going to put his name here, Henri Matisse. He said something, in order to find your own style, or in order to be original, you have to become a master at your craft and focus on being simple, very, very simple and direct in your art, so that your personality can shine through this. And that's your style. That's your real personality. When you're not really trying to create a style, your real personality will shine through if you just focus on mastering the techniques of tattooing or drawing or whatever it is that you do, in this case tattooing. I think that's a really a big one, because like your style is really your taste, and it's in your in the little decisions that you make, in the big and the small decisions that you make. That's you, and that's your style, your personality, like what you decided to do. And we'll get into that more later, actually. I really love that, Ali. I really, really love that. Let's see, Mark said, sometimes you should borrow the vibe instead of the technique. Yeah, and honestly, my personal opinion is that there's nothing original in art, really. There's just iterations and artists borrowing things from each other. And when you borrow a bunch of different stuff from different artists and you mix it into something of your own, it sort of becomes original, but it's still always inspired and borrowed from somewhere else. So it's just a big recycling process, which I think is really interesting. It made me relax a bit more when I realized this, like, oh, I actually don't have to try so hard to be original. I can try stuff and borrow things, and mix and match different styles together and see what happens, really. And it's really the other people that say, oh, you're so original. And I just like, no, I'm not. I'm just borrowing things and experimenting. So that's a big one. Let's get back to this. What is a tattoo style then? So speaking on this whole thing about borrowing and that there's maybe not so much original ideas, there's really just recycled ideas. I want to make a point to you guys that these 3 tattoos here, one I did and one from a great tattooer, Uzi. Most people know this guy. He has done a couple of really cool transformations over the years. If you guys remember, like 2 years ago, he did only anime stuff. Now he does only blue dragons. I mean, great. I think he does amazing work. And the work is actually really simple technically, but the style is really cool. And then we have Okan, who is very, very strong in his own identity. And he really just does what he does. And I really respect him for that. He's one of my favorite tattooers. I want to show you something. The definition of a tattoo style in tattooing, keep in mind, in tattooing, it's actually just remixes of other art styles adapted for tattoos, like we said. And so there is no real originality. There's only ways to mix things from other art styles. And I'll show you. Look at this. Uzi right now is very popular on social media because he started doing these old school traditional dragon sleeves, okay? When you think about a dragon, and if you look close to on his designs here, there's really nothing new about it. There's nothing original about his designs, but it is like his tattoos are presented in a new way. They feel new in a sense. So what he's been able to do is take something old, in this case, very old, like he's literally doing Chinese vase art on people's arms. He even uses blue ink mostly, which is like, so all he did here was that he took something that already exists on a different medium and he translated it into tattoos. And the people who only look at tattoos, they go, wow, this is so cool. And it is cool. I love his work. And so in that way, he kind of created a style, didn't he? I don't know. Did he or did he not? I think he's a great example of someone remixing art from like non-tattoo art, and he's presenting it in the form of a tattoo, and it all of a sudden feels like a new tattoo style. I do the same. I actually just take pretty much mostly old Greek statues, that whole design language from 2,000-3,000 years ago up until the Roman era. I love that. I didn't create it. And then I also take like hermetic / biblical Christian concepts, a lot of like copper etching. We see that here. These styles, they are this sort of, it's called hermetic art. And it was, illustrations from monks all the way back like 2,000 years ago. They started all the way up until maybe 400 years ago, right before the Renaissance. And I just took these 2 styles of art and I mixed them together. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to borrow here. I like this sort of hermetic art, the lines, the symbols with the sort of suns and the moons, and they sort of say something. I don't know what they say, but it feels like they're saying something. And then I mix them with some Greek style stuff, sometimes some other things, but that's really it. And I think that the mix of these 2 different art forms created something that feels new. And then you apply it into tattoos. So now it's not on paper anymore, it's on a body part. And it really presents these old styles in a new way. And again, I mean, this is a very basic example, but like classic black and gray, it's just Renaissance art on the body. That's what it is. There's nothing new about it. And so, the point I'm trying to make here is that there's nothing original, but there is new ways of mixing things. I really think so. I really, really think so. So a tattoo style, most of the time, is really just another art style borrowed into tattooing. And so that's really good for us. Even here, this is a Picasso tattoo. Oh, sorry, Picasso art piece. He did this in the 60s. And if you look at this, this is like these single line tattoos, very nice. As soon as it's on a body part, it feels like a different type of art, but they've really just borrowed. And so, yeah, we don't have to stress so much. I think we just have to figure out what to borrow. So how do you then create your own style? I think the number one rule is to understand that you are what you eat, meaning you are the art that you spend the most time looking at. And here's something for you. When I started developing my own style, I was so bored with tattoos. This was back in 2015, I think. Yeah, 15, 16. And I realized, wow, I'm really only looking at tattoos. I wasn't looking at any art. I was just looking at tattoos. So no wonder I was bored. And no wonder I didn't know what to do, because all the art I was seeing looked like what I was doing, right? I was only looking at other tattoos. And I made a deal with myself that for 1 month, I said to myself, I'm going to stop looking at tattoos, completely stop looking at tattoos for inspiration. And I'm just going to look at other forms of art and see if I can get inspired. And at first it was really hard, because I didn't know what to look at and I didn't know what I liked. But I had just moved to New York at the time. And so I started going to galleries, to the museums, and I saw so much art that I didn't like. Most art I don't like. I saw weird sculptures. I saw performance art. I saw so many things. And what happened was that I slowly started understanding kind of what I like. And I actually started looking at like a lot of graphic design and minimalist art, and just like kind of what Okan does, like line work. And then I found hermetic art, like the old biblical stuff that I mentioned. That's kind of like Leonardo da Vinci sketches too. That's sort of the same style. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this. This is great. And then I started asking myself the question, oh, can I tattoo this? Or can I take this great graphic design? It could be a website design. I just like, oh, I love the text here. Can I take this and borrow it and create a tattoo from this? And I realized that, oh, I am what I eat. My style is what I sort of feed myself, what I look at. And so nowadays, I'm very careful with what I look at, because that will influence me and it'll come back out. So I actively try to look at new art all the time, and different art, preferably very weird and different. And I don't borrow everything, but I try to keep myself entertained and keep myself stimulated and challenged in what I look at and how I try to translate it. And actually right now I'm in a place where I kind of need to update myself, I think. And so I'm going to stop looking at tattoos again, and I'm going to start looking at some weird art, and then figure out how can I borrow this and how can I create something with this. So that is very important, guys. Think about it. Maybe give yourself a break of looking only at tattoos. I know that tattoos was the reason we started tattooing. We love tattoos, but to create really interesting tattoos, we may need to borrow from other art styles. So yeah, you make new connections and mixes. So the challenge is really take two very different styles of art that you love. It can be anime and Greek Roman sculpture. Can you do something with that? How can you present these two together? Or can you take, let's say, anime and abstract art, or anime and traditional tattoo art? Mix them together, see what happens. And if you do this long enough, somewhere in all of that, you may stumble upon something very interesting. And then if you post that and other people think it's interesting, then all of a sudden you've created your own style. And yeah, it's really that simple, but it's a lot of trial and error. And you got to zoom out from tattooing. Like, don't look at just tattoos, really. So yeah, that's about it. You got to have fun and just try and be a little different, or don't try to be different. Just do what you want. If different is what you want to be, then try to make the weirdest connections that you can come up with, really, But I think you got the point here. It's all about making new connections that hasn't been done before, but with things that already exist. So yeah, that's my initial presentation for you guys. The big point here is, as we said, you are what you eat. Challenge yourself to stop looking at tattoos for a while and see what happens. Yeah. Oh, Elvin, now you see Daniel Arsham. Yeah, Daniel Arsham, he did exactly this. He actually, in a very simple way, he just took Greek statues and he put some crystals on them. Voila, new style. It's all about how you present it. It really is. So, oh yeah, and Jajana Moscow, I think an original tattoo would look really weird in our eyes. You're so right about that. Because, in a way, it's very easy to make something original if I just do, that's original. I bet you nobody did that before. But, is that good? Maybe. I think the real challenge in style and all that is to take something old that everyone has seen already, like Greek sculptures, and try to make it feel new, like Daniel Arsham did. That's hard. It's really hard to take something that's old and everyone knows and sort of refresh it and present it in a new light. That is powerful. Because if you make something that's totally original, I don't think people will understand it, and they won't be interested because they can't relate to it. But if they see something that they can kind of recognize, they're like, I've seen this before, or I know Greek statues, or I know anime, but I've never seen it like this. That's where you want to go. And actually, guys, I tell all my clients when we have a consultation and they come to me with a reference, maybe of a tattoo that I already did, and they say, oh, I love it so much. Can we do something very similar to this? And I say, well, I've already done it. We want to create something that other people will come to me with and say, I want this. So we got to do something new. But the challenge there, and I tell them, is really like to take this and spin it in a way that it's recognizable, but yet feeling new. There's no right or wrongs really in this, but I would advise you to sort of try to follow that mindset. Take something old and present it in a new way. So maybe now when you guys go on to Instagram and you look at other tattoos that you love, maybe it's in different styles, try to backwards engineer the styles and try and figure out like, where did this tattoo artist get inspired from? Because if you look at all these things, it's kind of easy to figure out like where they got these styles from, you know? And then maybe you can sort of figure out where you should look for your own inspiration. That could be a good challenge. Let's end this here. You guys go out and think about what other art you like and what other connections you can make between art. And I challenge you to at least start looking at 50% art, 50% tattoos, and try to really educate yourself on what art you like. And really, I promise you, you're going to be influenced by this, and slowly your creative decisions will start to change because you're getting new input. This is a process, but I really think it'll help you. Thank you, guys. I'm going to be posting this. And yeah, as always, if you guys have any questions or anything or thoughts or suggestions on what we should have live streams of, please just post in the community. Everyone is allowed to make posts in the community, right? So please use it. It's for you. So I'll see you guys in the community and probably next week for a new live stream. Bye. Hope you've enjoyed watching this seminar. If you're looking for more lessons and seminars like this, you can visit c23labs.io, where you can access things like our online communities, where you can get your tattoos critiqued by me and my team. You can also get guided roadmaps and seminars on learning tattoo, tattoo designing, and how to manage and grow your social media and learn critical business skills as a tattoo artist. See you again in the next lesson.